Hi, how's everyone out there doing? This is Amy Hamilton, author of The Project Manager, Life is a Project, and The Consummate Communicator, Character Traits of True Professionals. This is 24 authors, 12 hours, January 20th edition. And I'm down to the final two authors of the day. Oh my gosh, it has been an amazing, tremendous day. This journey of talking to different authors. And I'm here with Brian Delrosario, who is so excited to be here. And I have his book with me, Side Hustling for Working Adults. Brian, I'm not sure. Are you active duty or are you a veteran?
I am active duty, but this is year 20 for me. I'm about to be a veteran.
So he is active duty, going to be a veteran soon, and he focuses the side hustling for working adults on veterans. But I told him, I said, you should really relook this because I don't think it's just military veterans that this applies to. I think side hustling for working adults is applicable to so many out there in the world. So, Brian, without any further preamble, what I would love to do is turn this over to you. If you could talk to us about what inspired you to write your book, Side Hustling for Working Adults.
Well, Amy, the thing that inspired me the most, and as the saying goes, when it comes to motivation, either a really big motivation comes from inspiration or desperation. And in my case, it came from a little bit of both, but a lot of desperation. And it had to do with a lot of frustration with the day job. Now, I am very proud of having served. I've served in two branches. I was a U.S. Marine from 2001 to 2010, and then I commissioned as an Army officer in 2011. And this is year 20 for me. I mean, I'm proud of what I've done. That said, I mean, anyone who's ever, and I know, Amy, you're a veteran too, yeah?
That's correct. And
And
so
I
if anybody's
know,
out there had a chance to check it out, 24 authors in 12 hours. November edition was on Veterans Day, and the proceeds from that went to the Wounded Warrior Foundation, which
oh,
is
for
a
sure.
totally great cause. And it's also how Brian and I got connected.
Yes, we got connected through a mutual friend of ours who was also a veteran, and her name is Pam, and she introduced us. And so I'm actually really thankful to Pam for this opportunity. But
Yeah,
okay, so
big
that's
shout
what
out to
the
Pam.
Pam Meadows, Lieutenant Colonel, retired Army. So my frustration from work is what inspired me to write, and that same frustration bled into my health and relationships, and played a role in bringing me to the psychiatric ward twice, as well as over time, two divorces. I've lost two families, 6 children. They're okay. They just live with their
So
single mothers.
Brian, if you could
And
just pause a second there. I first of all want to thank you for your service, but second of all, the fact that you're willing to come forward and admit that's tremendous because so often people hide these mental health issues. They hide the fact that these divorces and things are caused, and you're like out there, you're exposing yourself, you're sharing it, and you're sharing it like, yeah, this is just what happened to me. But it's so important that other people realize, like, it's very powerful that you're willing to admit that, because so often people put on the perfect facade and you're
oh,
just like,
for
hey, this
sure.
is all the ugly underneath. And so thank you for sharing that with us.
Oh yeah, you know what? Thank you for appreciating that. And that's I know the second question you want me to answer is, and I'll get to that, is what inspired me to continue writing, because I wasn't going to finish this book. I intended to quit earlier last year, and I'm glad I continued. A friend of mine helped me with continue with that. But yeah, that same frustration in my health, wealth, and relationships, in particular, of my relationships, in particular my relationship with work, it was extremely painful. And so that's what really spurred the book. The original title of the book was Samurai Warrior, a comedy. Now, the word sham in the Army is like the word skate in the Marine Corps. It means to dodge work. And so it was intended to be a comedy. So a shammer is obviously someone who dodges work. So a samurai is someone who's really good at it. So the original title of the book was Samurai Warrior, a comedy. The 17 Rules of Extreme Mediocrity, with a disgruntled everyday man juggling alcohol, car problems, child support, divorce, money problems, and women. Of course, it applies to my audience has females also, but it was supposed to be hilarious and comical, and it was 17 because of it was the year 2017, and from a veteran affairs study from 2005 through 2017, the year 2017, the VA noted 79,000 veteran suicides. So 79,000 divided by that time frame, 12, 13 years, adds to 17 veteran suicides per day. So that's why I made it the 17 rules. And then I listed 17 rules, with each rule as a chapter. The thing is, I started writing that And I realized that it's not enough because people will read this book, they'll find some entertainment in it, and then they'll go back to their lives as normal, like just because it would have been nothing but entertainment. And so I wanted to do more than entertain. I wanted to educate, and not just state the problem in a humorous way, but also to suggest a solution on top of that. So, and that's really what inspired the book.
I think that's so important because entertainment's good. And one of the things I wanted to offer by doing 24 authors in 12 hours today was an escape. So often people are out there watching the news, there's so much negativity. And I wanted to give a venue because books can be that escape. People, like, we've had some great fantasy books, books about werewolves. I mean, who doesn't want to read a good werewolf book, right? And one of my favorite authors, Raven West, she wrote a book called Red Wine for Breakfast. I mean, there's something fairly interesting. And so when you look at books, they can be that kind of just fantasy fiction escape, which can be really fun. But then there's, books that are more serious. And your book definitely gives people an option who might be struggling with, I can't pay my bills. I'm dealing with, like you said, and that impacts your relationships, it impacts your emotion, it impacts so many other things. And you touched on a really heavy subject that I don't want to have get lost, and that's veteran suicides. And it's something
Yeah.
that just touches all of us who were related to the military. And I am going to put a link to the suicide hotline in here real quick as we have our discussion. But you went on to a great part where you got past that and I want to write something educational. I want to write something that's going to help people with a solution. So could you share more about how you got down that path?
So I went a little further down that path. What prompted me was around in the year 2016 was my first hospitalization for suicide, and I swear I was so pissed at everything that happened that followed, because the military expects me as a soldier to ask for help, to have the personal courage to ask for help, but then it turns right around and says, now I don't trust you anymore. And so the result from that is that, for those of you who are familiar with the military, and especially being an Army officer, that I needed, as a captain, to take company command in order to promote to the next rank, which is major. And when I got sent to the psychiatric ward, although it's medical, and although my chain of command probably would not have said medical, it doesn't affect your evaluation ranks. It totally did. I received a qualified OER, which what that means, it's just like an OER stands for evaluation rating, and qualified is not highly qualified or best qualified. It's like a D- to an F. It's like almost the equivalent of running over a guy and killing him or robbing a bank. Not quite, but it's bad. It's bad. It just means that I'll never take company command, and I never
Well, I
have.
think a way to equate that to a lot of civilians and people who aren't military is, I mean, in people's jobs, if you get a very low rating from your boss on your performance rating, commercial companies have performance ratings, so many people do, and so they give you an extraordinarily low rating that made it so that you would never get a promotion.
Yes, yes. And so that's what it'd be like. So the result was that, well, I could no longer climb this ladder. And in a way, I found that very liberating, because I could no longer climb this ladder. The question of whether to do so has been answered for me. So my only other option was to climb my own ladder. Hence, side hustling for working adults. I couldn't quit this job just yet, because at the time, 2016, I had 15 years in the military, 5 more to retirement. I'd hit 20. That's where I am right now. If I quit now, or try to quit now, it would be, I don't know, it just wouldn't have been a good option for me at the time. I still had a family to support. But I couldn't climb the ladder any higher. So hence, I needed to loosen my dependence on the job and find some success beyond the job, which for me meant side hustling.
So describe what side hustling is and how you can be successful at it for people who aren't familiar with it.
So the term side hustle, it really means, it could mean having a second job, but that's not what I mean. It means either trying to start a business or investing on the side, or trying to pull an income in addition to the first income, the primary income, the day job, the main hustle. The main hustle is the day job. The side hustle is the side business for the most part. You see, all of us have in one of my chapters I talk about, the hard part is that we feel like we don't have time, but let's just say you have 24 hours in a day, which is the truth. You have 24 hours in a day. You have let's say I got a good day, 8 hours to sleep. So, okay, so that's 16 hours left. Now, let's say you have 10 hours of work. Let's just say that. So you have 6 hours left now. And then let's spend 2, 3 hours, say 3 hours with family. Okay. So now you have 3 hours left for yourself and for your household. Right now, the average, I researched this, the average mom spends about 2 hours with her children. The average dad spends about 1 hour per day with children. So we spend 3 hours a day with your children. That's amazing. And so if you actually get 8 hours of sleep, that's also amazing because a lot of us are sleep deprived. And if you actually do 10 hours of work while you're at work, that's also super amazing. But these are all best case scenarios. But if you add that up, that adds up to at least 3 hours per day. 3 hours per day. That's a lot. That's like 21 hours in a week. So the problem I realized isn't so much, having time. It's just what you do with it. And what I did, I decided to make the most out of what little time I have left. In other words, if all you have is 10%, then make sure you use all 10%. And so that's what I was doing. I was trying to find the best use of my remaining time. I stumbled a lot. I failed. I lost so much money in dumb choices. But bad judgment leads to experience, and experience eventually to good judgment. I spent a lot of time. I wouldn't say failing. I would say learning. So, and I'm still doing that today. And the book captures that journey. That's the second part of the book. The first part was the frustration with work. The second part was about climbing my own ladder. And then the third part of the book is hacking military benefits. I say hacking, but really I mean aligning with the benefits that most veterans don't know about. I hope that answers the question.
So, what's your advice for people? You're there, you got the 9 to 5 job. What's some solutions for them on side hustle jobs that might help them to get out of the financial crisis that they're in?
All right, and when it comes to finding a side hustle, from all the research that I've discovered, it helps to find something that you're already good at and that is already in demand. So it's something that you're passionate about, but it is also valuable. I think value is something that you cannot decide by yourself. It's that intersection between supply, which is you, and then demand, which your audience wants. I mean, you can be really good at something nobody cares about. And if you're really good at that, well, then I wouldn't call that a hustle. It's more of a hobby because no one's paying you for it. So I think if you find a strength that solves a problem for other people, that right there should be your side hustle. If you try something that is completely like brand new to you, and you can succeed at that, the problem is you're going to spend a lot of time going from terrible to mediocre. And why go from terrible to mediocre when you can go from good to outstanding? I think that would serve most people.
Now, that's a really good way to describe it. And so, what have you seen either yourself or other people do that's been successful as side hustles?
The most common side hustle that I've seen here, especially in Fayetteville, with the successful side hustlers that I interview in my book, like those who hit millionaire status while serving on active duty. And I find these people because if they can do it while on active duty and start playing the game at the $1 million level, then so can you, right? So can any of us. And but the most common way that they've done it is through real estate investing, and it starts out really slow, but for many of them, it just seems to work out really well. And the reason is because our VA benefits, such as the VA home loan guarantee, allows us to it significantly reduces the barrier to entry by letting you put zero down on a property. And there are many ways you can house hack. One of the most common ways is that with the VA home loan, for example, you can find a fourplex, a residential unit that you can break up into 4 units. You live in one, and then you collect BAH, basic allowance for housing, for that, and then you rent out the other 3. So in a way, it kind of pays for itself. And even further, what other people do to further house hack is to like Airbnb some of the rooms within their own house. So that is one of the most common ways that I've seen people start a side hustle in real estate. But there are many other ways.
Great. I can't believe this, but we are actually halfway through the segment already. And my reminder came up. So one of the things I want to remind everybody about is today is January 20th. And if you go to Amazon, you can download my books, The Project Manager, Life is a Project, or The Consummate Communicator, Character Traits of True Professionals, available for download all day. Please check them out. And Brian, what can people find if they go to your website, and what kind of promos do you have regarding your book and other opportunities?
Well, on my website, it's actually not very developed just yet. If you go to my website, briandelrosario.com, as of today, you will see a blog, and the blog just a lot, most recently, of books that I've also reviewed. And you'll find you'll find some links, some of these icons at the top to my Facebook, my Instagram, my as well as to my book, which is on Amazon. And today and tomorrow, I decided, it'll be free to download through Kindle. So by all means, if you like it, let me know, leave a review. So that's what you'll find on my
I'm
website.
going to put your link here for Amazon into the comments section. And so for the next 2 days, that's January 20th and January 21st, it's free for download. So please check it out. And like Brian said, authors, one of the things we live off of is reviews. And so please, if you're going to take the time to download it, check it out, give a review.
Yes, please, please. Totally would appreciate it. And, give me a shout out. I'll give you a shout out.
So what are your plans for your website in your future? You mentioned you're getting ready to retire. When is that going to be?
I am in the middle of the medical retirement process, which, because of COVID, has been very variable. So it normally takes about 6 months, but my medical evaluation board process began April of last year. And, 2020 pandemic lockdown, it's just now continuing. To tell you the truth, I don't know what my future over the next 6 to 12 months is very uncertain. But I do expect that the Army will be kicking me out, retiring me like soon. My immediate plan is to become a professional student because, it does pay BAH, and of course, retirement plus, what do you call it, VA disability compensation. It adds up to a very good passive income. And so I plan to do that. I plan to study marketing. Digital marketing is kind of my thing. Informational products are my thing. Real estate is not so much my thing, but informational products, it just seems to be my niche. So,
Just so
and to
you know,
answer your question,
there's a lot of stuff coming in through the chat right now. People are downloading your books. They're saying that they're sharing your books among veteran websites. So pretty exciting that so much is getting shared so quickly.
yeah, well, awesome. I hope you really enjoy it. So I quickly answer the question that you just asked right now about what I plan to do with my website. I plan to transform it into something a little bit more, productive. I want to create what's called transform it into a funnel. But right now, I'm kind of happy with it. It's very informative, and there are photos of me. They're not the greatest of photos. They're not the worst. It's like, I made it. It's like, they're not professionally taken. They're just taken from my phone. And so the next step, I think you asked me, was what motivated me to continue writing. And the thing that motivated me to continue writing was finding so many other veterans who share this frustration with their job and their work, and they come home and it bleeds all over everything else. It ruins their relationships. It ruins their health. And the Army, like I said earlier, wants you to ask for help, but when you ask for help, it turns around now and says, "No, I don't trust you anymore." And then, of course, when I was denied, when I got sent to the psych ward, now I could no longer promote from captain to major. So I decided I'd climb my own ladder, and that's what I've been doing as a side hustle. The humor, though, is what really connected me to a lot of veterans. For example, my 17 rules. That was the original title, 17 rules. Some of the rules include, and this is comedy, don't actually do this, but some of the rules were: 1, aim for mediocrity; 2, always lie about you want or just stop wanting, because the Army is just going to give you the opposite anyway; 3, always seem busy because they're not getting paid more; 4, avoid speaking, ask questions, dumb questions, but not too dumb; number 5, disappear as soon as possible. Now this is all comedy. This is all comedy in line with like the theme of like That TV and Generation Kill and Duffel Blog and Terminal Lands. This is not actual advice, but these are things that so many people who sham like do as a silent rule of like dodging work. And I label it because one, it's funny, but two, I would say that we wouldn't do such things if we actually were, I don't know, I would say, inspired to give our best. And many I just feel that they are lacking that, they're just lacking that inspiration. If I were to ask you, like right now, like anyone at work, like, hey, who are your leaders? You would point to your immediate chain of command, right? But if I were to ask you, who motivates you? Who makes it so that you actually want to show up to work? I mean, who helps you out when you're stuck with your job? I guarantee you're going to point at someone other than your chain of command. Yet all those second set of questions, that is the definition of leadership, right? To provide purpose, motivation, and direction, right?
So Brian, I just have to say, I'm really sad that you happen to be in a place where it's like that. And I was fortunate enough that I wasn't. And My second book is actually based on the character traits of true professionals from Admiral Strivetus, who I have been extraordinarily just lucky to have worked for, and at a time when I could look to a leader who inspired me. And you bring up a point that is really good though, is I've also had leaders who don't inspire me. And there's an old movie called White Christmas. It's an old military movie. Have you ever seen it with Bing Crosby and Danny Kaye?
I have not seen it now. No.
Definitely go and check out this movie. And basically, there's this general who's retired, and Bing Crosby and Danny Kaye, their characters used to serve him under the military in World War II. And his inn is struggling in Vermont with no snow. And everybody rallies around to try to save this old inn because they love the general that much. And I always look at Boss and I call it the White Christmas test. And I'm like, would I go to Vermont at Christmas with no snow to try to help this person out? And if the answer is no, that means they're not a good leader. They're not inspiring. And it breaks my heart a little bit as somebody who's studied leadership and who values leadership and who just looks at that's a fundamental thing that we should be providing in the United States military, and people look for it.
For sure.
And to hear that that's not the case in your unit is absolutely
that has never been the case for me in all of 20 years. I have never been given a duty assignment that I swear I have thrown myself, into every position. In fact, for the past 10 years, on average, I've spent about maybe 9 to 10 months per position, reinventing the wheel, fixing someone else's problem, only to be given someone else's problem to fix, and just constantly just do that for 10 straight years. Anytime I ever wanted anything, my chain of command made sure to give me the opposite. I want that deployment. No, I want to stay. You're going to go, I need that special scoop for something. Hell no. You know what I mean? This crabs in a barrel attitude that if I win, of course, that means my boss loses. I've had to deal with that for 20 years. It drove me insane. And so now I write about it.
No, that is a shame, because what I can tell you is, having served under a great leader and somebody who to this day just inspires me, not just because he let me write a book about him, but because he endorsed it and has supported it. And leadership did, underneath him did, I dedicated my book to Stephen Ewell, who was my direct boss, and he's a retired Navy 06. And the one thing that I got from him that was just so important was knowing your people. And when I worked for him one time, he wanted me to work late. And I try to be that stoic person, like you're supposed to be. And I'm sure I got like a little scowl or something, that's before I started getting all the Botox, right? And and so he said, "Oh, it's your gym night, isn't it?" And I said, "Yeah," and he's like, "No." He said, "You go to the gym." He said, "What time can you make it here in the morning?" And I was like, and he's like nobody in the States is going to be awake. This is fine. So I just came in early and I worked the next day. And it just struck me as that leadership moment that you take with you forever. And then when I have people who work for me, I know, like, hey, this is so-and-so's day that they're going to like play ice hockey. I'm not going to interfere with that. Or their kid has something in school, because if you know your people and you prioritize their needs, they're going to prioritize your needs and the organization's needs. And so, gosh, Brian, this has been a heartbreaking discussion with you. I'm glad it's inspired your book, though, because sometimes bad times create good things. So much of today's show has been about how adversity helps you to grow. We're wrapping up our segment, though. And what else would you like to share with this audience that we haven't had a chance to talk about?
That there's a light at the end of the tunnel. And then, you know what? It is possible to turn tragedy into triumph.
Tragedy to triumph. What a great message. Is there anything else you'd like to share?
No. I want to say to all my fellow vets out there, it's been a rough ride, and I love all of you. And keep the comedy rolling, right?
Thanks you so much for your service. Thank you for sharing, and please go and check out Brian's book.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.